We've been occupying here for 16 days. The Hammonds have been in prison for 14. That is way too long. This is not just a little occupation. This is a movement that's taking place across our country. This is LaVoy Finicum on Cowboy Stand for Freedom. I believe in government. This is our heritage. I have been listed as a domestic terrorist. This isn't America. This isn't what we are.
Go ahead. Car 15 responding.
This isn't about me trying to be an anarchist. It's me holding up the Constitution and the rule of law.
Domestic terrorists.
I'm all in. There's no turning back.
Officers on the scene.
It's gotta stop. It's gotta stop. No matter how long or short my days may be, I am going to live as a free man. So, what about you?
No matter how it ends, it matters how you stand.
Mr. Speaker, as I'm sure my colleagues are aware of the situation in Harney County, Oregon, where a group of protesters, armed, have overtaken a federal facility, the National Wildlife Refuge. This group is led largely by people who are not necessarily from Oregon, although they obviously have supporters from Oregon.
The local citizens were afraid to come to Malheur, and they would wait until it was in the dead of night before they would drive out to Malheur and go in so that no one could recognize them.
What they were doing is they were trying to come in there and say, look, these people are so dangerous that we're going to have to come in here and barricade ourselves in downtown, not allow people to go to school. They were doing it so that the community would be frightened and create the narrative that somehow we were these terrorists that are defined in the Patriot Act.
There was only one time I ever feared anything that was going on with the refuge, and that's after I talked with the FBI that came to my house on January 3rd. And he gives me a piece of blank paper. I still have it. I'm framing it because it's two handwritten FBI agents with their phone numbers on just a blank piece of paper. And he says, I don't want to give you anything with the FBI stamp or anything with any police information on it. And I said, why? Should I be in fear of my safety and my family's safety? They sit back in their chair and they look at each other, and he says, I'd be concerned. So they're the ones that put that fear in me. I mean, I locked my house down and nobody left.
I was scared of the FBI, of the military force that was coming down on our town, because it seemed like if you were walking around and you accidentally burped, you might get shot. I mean, these guys were so jacked up. They were so ready for a fight that, people were afraid to get their phones out of their pocket for fear that they would think somebody was going for a gun.
There's no doubt the FBI came in and created the division, so there would be an obvious group of people who wanted Ammon out of the community.
The fact that we had, I don't know what the exact numbers are, I heard 400 FBI in town taking over. They were crawling everywhere. Crawling because they would cruise around and look at you in their big black SUVs. And then if you went by the airport, there were huge assault vehicles and huge trucks. And it was for what?
But there was a local police officer who got on Facebook and made a post saying, don't go to the store by yourself, don't send your wife to the store, travel in pairs. These basically saying these people are crazy. Like, you might as well pack a pistol to go to the grocery store is the way that it came across. Yeah.
Closing down the BLM offices, sending people home, telling the government employees they didn't have to work. They had people at the front doors of the schools telling parents that they couldn't come in to the school just like they used to, because they feared for, I don't know, the outsiders coming in or harming the children in the schools. And it's like, how ridiculous can this get?
I heard the big thing of, I'm afraid, you know, and what are you afraid of? What's happened that's made you afraid? And they weren't allowed to talk.
I do know there were a couple of dingbats that I don't think were militia at all, that pretended to be, and I'm angry about that.
It was a full-on psychological operation, I think. And I mean, what is a psychological operation aside from coercing and intimidating the civilian population?
Who was creating the coercion and intimidation in Burns? Was it the governed or the governing? Were the three levels of law enforcement judging LaVoy and those with him by the law, or profiling him by their training and culture?
Good morning, America. And this is LaVoy Finicum. I am here at the Harney County Resource Center, formerly known as the Malheur Wildlife Resource National Refuge, and it has been 13 days since we have occupied this as a peaceful place to work from, to restore our Constitution. This is about all of America. This is about our Constitution. It's about requiring our federal government to return to the confines of the law, to deal with the things of the national level, to allow the states to deal with the things of the states and the counties to deal with the things of the county, to restore a Republican form of government. This land is special. This land needs to be free again. It cannot be free when our government has become lawless and they find no restrictions to their actions. They completely disregard the limits that we the people have put upon them, namely the Constitution. As we came out here, there was a lot of thoughts going through my mind. There's a term called crossing the Rubicon, and there's no turning back. And I thought to myself, I've not yet crossed the Rubicon. I've not yet walked in and seized this federal facility. And as I thought upon this, I says, once I do that, there'll be no turning back. And as I pondered, I was driving, I was the rear guard, and went across this great flat of frozen water and snow. There up ahead was a bald eagle, a large, beautiful bald eagle sitting on the fence post, watching us coming. As we passed, it lifted off and flew. And I said to myself, this is not about cows and grass, it's about freedom. And so I crossed the Rubicon. I'm all in. This resource center is very symbolic. It is like their fortress, which they operated out of for many years and seized the resources of Harney County. We have now occupied their fort. We're not giving it back. It goes to Harney County. This facility, this compound, does not return to the federal government. It is the state of Oregon. It is the Harney County's Resource Center. And here we are to help the Harney County citizens reclaim their right to access to the resources of their land.
And when I got to the refuge, when I followed them in, lo and behold, there's guys that I saw from the Bundy Ranch. I mean, my friends, the people I knew, you know, and I was shocked. I'm going, what is this, a family reunion? You know, what are we doing here?
I figured, well, by tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon at the latest, they'll be gone because they'll be cold and nobody will want them there and they'll leave. Well, lo and behold, the next morning I look on Facebook and some people from Jordan Valley had come up in the middle of the night to see Ammon and Ryan and LaVoy and talk to them about the horrific things that they were going through on their ranch. And then that opened a floodgate. Then people were coming in all that day. And it stayed that way for the, 23 days that they were there.
And I could not believe that they had this kind of a facility for what? A bird watch? They had this awesome kitchen with, 4 refrigerators and, 4 stoves, and I mean, it was awesome. They had rooms down the hall and bunks in them and showers and laundry and everything. And it was all heated and lighted and it was out in the middle of the frozen desert. It had been cleaned out, but yet everything was still on. It was almost like it was just made for us to walk in, and all the doors were open. And I had no idea why.
There was media from everywhere, all over the United States, France, Germany.
I had a guy that used to live here that is a professor in China. He emailed me, he said, "Chris, I just seen you on TV. What the hell's going on? What's going on down there?"
All of a sudden, all this media started coming down. Media, they were coming from everywhere. We didn't stop them. They came right into the building. They took pictures of me making soup. "What are you doing?" "We're making soup." "What for?" "Because we're hungry. You want some soup?" "Oh, it smells good." 5 times one camera guy goes outside to defog his camera, and he keeps taking pictures of the soup boiling on the stove. I said, "You must be really hungry. Grab a bowl." He would not eat it.
I'm calling this out here. We are not anti-government. We're not anti-federal government. I believe in the federal government. We believe in the federal government. We need the federal government.
I don't remember if he volunteered or if someone volunteered him or if I asked him or what. I really don't remember. But I remember, basically saying once it was kind of talked about that LaVoy will take care of all the media.
I was behind the scenes sidekick PR. I was helping to run his Facebook page and trying to get the message delivered in that way and giving him feedback on language that was being used at the refuge.
And so I raised my hand and said, "Ammon, are you telling me that all these years we've been trying to draw a defensive line, getting pressed here, stepping back, pressed here, stepping back, and we keep losing ground?" He says, "Are you now saying that this is a peaceful step forward to reclaim?" He says, "Yes, I am." I said, "Well, that's what I thought you meant." The only reason that we have guns here is for our own personal protection and safety. We should never, ever point guns at each other. I called today to the media, says, "Please, let's de-escalate this." I asked the federal FBI and the federal agents to please, quit occupying the school and let the children go back to school and leave. If they'll leave, the whole tensions will de-escalate even more.
Yeah.
And it would be a lot more forceful.
Well, my heart goes out to anyone who has violence perpetrated upon them, okay? And we welcome any support from any, from any community. Freedom has no color. It's colorblind. It belongs to all, race, color, and creed. For myself, I worked hard with my own money to buy my ranch, okay? A lifetime dream to have my own. It took a lot to get there. And so that's all we're doing is our own personal property, our own personal livelihood, our own personal lives.
I understand, but let's say that's
and so
my personal.
If there's a Muslim in the same situation or a Native American in the same thing, most certainly they should kindly and as gently as possible protect their own life, liberty, and property. The federal government has some very specific responsibilities, such as keeping our borders secure, defending our nations, keeping commerce regular, and just a few other narrowly defined things. So I'm going to say that again. We are not anti-government. I also want to reach out to the Native Americans. I grew up on the Navajo Reservation, a little place called Page, Arizona. From a child till I left high school, I was on the reservation. And I'm very aware of what the federal government has done with the Native people and the tribes. The BIA rules over that res in lots of ways, through either money or control. But the BIA, Bureau of Indian Affairs, the tribes need to be free. The Native American people need to be free. And so we're reaching out to have a liaison between us and the Paiute people here. If they have concerns, we would like to invite them to come and visit with us. It's very important that we try to keep things neat, tidy, preserve it so that nothing is destroyed, and that everything is preserved in good condition to turn over to the Harney County government and those citizens that want to take care of this. Well, Dwayne, what are you doing here?
I'm just cleaning up the old barn. Okay. And trying to take care of this poor old building.
Well, I see that this, when I was first in there, it looked a lot different than it does now. I see that you have done a tremendous amount of cleaning and organizing. This place is, tell me about the building. What is it?
The building is the old Elliott wagon train stop.
Okay.
And it should be regarded as pretty historic building.
Right. The gentleman says that there's 2 cameras in there. So that's what we're doing now. It is January 15th and 2:35. Okay, Ken, I'm good now. Oh, that looks good. Yeah, that looks great.
They had coolers full of elk meat, beef from local ranchers, venison, antelope, all sorts of, they had no room for them. They had big coolers sitting in the snow full of this meat. They also had canned food that was being brought in. I mean, everything was being brought to them by locals. And so when people hear that Harney County wanted them gone, not all of Harney County wanted them gone because they were feeding them pretty well.
The hospitality that we received from some of the people, I'll say some of the people there, was unbelievable, something I had never experienced in my life. One family brought us an envelope with money and food from some deer that they had killed recently. They brought us warm clothes. It was unbelievable, the treatment that we received from some of these people.
Lawrence, I'm here with LaVoy Finicum. He's a 55-year-old rancher from Arizona, father of 11, and he says he believes there's a warrant out for his arrest, and he does not anticipate respecting that warrant. He's got a gun here under the blanket. And LaVoy, why don't you tell us what your plan is?
Well, first of all, let's get a little bit of things out here in front. The information may or may not be accurate, but it appeared to be highly credible that 5 warrants were issued for our arrest for me, for Ammon Bundy, for Ryan Bundy, and I'm not sure for the other 2, and by the FBI, federal warrants. And so if that is true, if that is the case, I do not want the FBI, federal agents, have to go running around in the dark, kicking in doors looking for me, okay? I have no intention of spending any of my days in a concrete box. And so I will, whatever days, and I believe that there'll be many, and hopefully prosperous days to come, I will spend them riding my horses, trying to take care of my cows, and that's what I will do. But I will not spend it in a box.
So to avoid getting in that box, you're ready to do what?
You guys have so many hypotheticals.
If they come here and try to arrest you, they point a gun at you, they try to put cuffs on you, how far are you willing to take this?
Well, don't point a gun at me. You don't point a gun at somebody unless you're going to shoot them. That's the first thing your thought is hit. Don't point guns at people. And so I'm telling them right now, don't point guns at me.
So you're prepared to die, better dead than in a cell?
Absolutely. Dude, would you like to be in a cell? Nobody wants to live their life in a cell.
You know, there are people who are watching this who are going to say to themselves, this man's a terrorist who's occupied someone else's property and who's got a death wish. Evidently, that's one of your fans.
That's a good man.
There are people who are watching this who would say to themselves, you're a terrorist, you've occupied land that's not your own, and you've got a death wish. There's a gun over your lap and you're asking for it.
I have no death wish. I love life. I have 20 grandkids. Actually, I have 19 and 2 on the way.
Okay, 19 and 2 on the way. So you've got something to live with.
I have something to live
but
for.
You're prepared to die.
I'm prepared to defend freedom.
LaVoy's interview goes viral across the internet. Nationwide support for his message begins to grow. Simultaneously, a tide of vile contempt swells.
This was after he was called Target Man. His response was to just laugh at the experience, and then he said he never knew that Superman had a cape.
We went to the FBI headquarters several times because, hey, we're honest men, and we believe in, you got a problem with somebody, you go and talk to them face to face. But they wouldn't come out. They wanted to send a phone and talk to a negotiator from a long distance away. Okay, so to me that shows cowardice, it shows disrespect, dishonor, it shows that they're trying to cover up, trying to hide. You know, to me there's nothing right about it. And we went there several times.
So if you feel that, so you're telling me people are afraid to talk to us, how can we overcome that?
Well, maybe first you could come out and look at us in the eye in person. You could give us your real first name and your real last name, and you could be a true representative of the people, and that would start. That would be a great start. But I think it's going to take that personal touch of you guys actually not hiding behind the phones and hiding behind the guns and hiding behind the barricades. And then when you do that, then they might actually have faith in you that you're going to get it done and that you're going to protect them, not harm them.
They were discussing the redress of grievances that started this whole thing, because had the local officials responded to and treated that redress of grievances properly, then that refuge takeover wasn't needed.
The evidence itself is incriminating to the Bureau of Land Management, because it's 2 witnesses that saw them start the fires around the Hammonds property when they blamed it on lightning. Second, that Papagni knew about it, knew about the witnesses, actually went to their homes and interviewed them, and then never ever were they contacted again. The witnesses were never contacted again. And then we go digging into it, and the Hammonds lawyers, basically wouldn't disclose anything.
So they didn't confirm whether they had it or not. They just wouldn't disclose anything to you.
Correct, one way or the other. And Susie Hammond requested that they disclose those things to us.
We had people who were witnesses that said they set the fire. They were BLM guys that set the fire all around the Hammonds house to try to burn them out. And they built the backfires to protect their land. And yet they were being set by these BLM fires, these BLM guys. And they were kept retorching the fires if they went out. And so we had that evidence, but and the prosecutors had it, but they would never bring it into the court. Even their own attorney that they paid over $1 million refused or just hid the discovery.
And so the question is still there. Did Papagni disclose that information to the Hammonds attorney or not? And if he didn't, then there's a problem there, of course. If he did, then we are wondering why in the world would the Hammonds attorney not use that information? I mean, it's so pertinent. So, just in that point alone, Chris, that's a concern we have, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's one thing I looked at for, I'm not an attorney, but my experience working cases and discoveries, it's a responsibility for us, and it's for the prosecution.
Yeah. Well, that's what I know. I did talk to the witness myself. I have his witness recorded on audio. And so, that part is solid.
They said, okay, we'll look at him. In fact, at that point, we felt way hopeful because we're like, finally, they're going to really, treat this right. In other words, we felt like the FBI was actually going to start helping us in the quest to fix the problem.
There was a point of time that my husband had called the family and asked for my children to come, whoever wanted to come visit him, and he specifically needed clothes and supplies, a heavier sleeping bag. And so some of my children and grandchildren and my in-laws went up to see him and brought those things to him.
I headed up with my grandparents up there, and it took us about, we had to spend a night at a hotel, so it took a long time to get there. And when we got there, you could see how busy he was with teaching people and answering questions and how involved he was.
The car pulled, and my sister and her children were in my car, and his parents were in the car in front of us, and my other sister, who was in Idaho, she brought her children as well, and so we were just kind of caravanning up together.
Quite honestly, I went up there with the intent of saying, LaVoy, maybe this isn't the best place for you to be.
Good morning. It's, what's the date today? I don't even know.
Friday.
We're in Oregon and we're at some wildlife refuge. Is it Malheur or something?
I don't know how to pronounce it.
Do you know how to pronounce Oregon or Oregon?
Oregon.
Where are you from?
We're from Utah.
You're from Utah. And go ahead and introduce yourselves.
I'm Brittany. I'm one of LaVoy Finicum's daughters.
Oh boy. Shouldn't say this, but he has cute daughters. Okay, and you?
I'm Tara. I'm his daughter.
Okay, and you, young man?
Me?
Yes.
I'm his grandson. I'm Case, LaVoy's grandson, and that's my mom.
Okay, and?
And I'm Tian, his daughter.
According to the media, you're not the stereotype.
We are here because we love our dad. He's a good man. And the media has not told the true story. And we're here to support him.
After about probably an hour and a half of being there, my uncle talked to him about us staying the night, because that was the plan. Most of us would stay the night, and I was supposed to stay up there until it was done, until he was to go home.
My last words to him was, stay your course. After I saw his heart, I knew what he was standing for, what the intent was, and I knew that he was committed to this.
After my uncle talked to him, he just said, I just don't think it's a good idea that they should stay here. And my dad didn't fight him on it. He's like, you know what, I think you're right. So after that, he came downstairs and he said, you guys need to head home. And that was really hard.
Somebody had informed my dad that some militiamen were coming to insert themselves and with the intent of assisting them. And not that they had been asked to come, but that they were coming.
Was I disappointed? Yes, because I've always been his right-hand man, and I've always been with him through everything. And the fact that I wasn't able to stand there with him in something that I believed just as passionately as he did was very hard. And I just had to go home and play basketball because I was still in high school and just act as if nothing was happening. So that was hard. Within our church we have Father blessings, and that was the last time us sisters had a Father's blessing from him. He was blessing me for strength to be able to take care of the ranch while he's gone and to step up to the plate.
And Dad at that point said, I think it's better that you guys leave. And so we were there for maybe 5 hours. And so we were there for maybe 5 hours. And so we were there for maybe 5 hours. And so we were there for maybe 5 hours. And so we were there for maybe 5 hours. And so we were there for maybe 5 hours. And so we were there for maybe 5 hours. And so we were there for maybe 5 hours. And so we were there for maybe 5 hours. And so we were there for maybe 5 hours. And so we were there for maybe 5 hours. And so we were there for maybe 5 hours. And so we were there for maybe 5 hours. And so we were there for maybe 5 hours. And so we were there for maybe 5 hours. And so we were there for maybe 5 hours. And so we were there for maybe 5 hours. And so we were there for maybe 5 hours. And so we were there for maybe 5 hours. And so we were there for maybe 5 hours. And so we were there for maybe 5 hours. And so we were there for maybe 5 hours. And so we were there for maybe 5 hours. And so we were there for maybe 5 hours. And So we left, and he actually said, I need you guys to just go out of this room and not come back, because it will be hard for me if you come back in the room.
As I was walking out, I told him, I'd seen what was going on. I understood it, and and like I said, I told him, stick to your guns, and gave him a hug, and I walked out the door. And as I was walking out the door, he called my name and said, "Guy." And I turned around and looked at him, and he looked me in the eye and he said, "I love you," And I just went back and I gave him another hug, and I knew that everything was good with us.
We went back, our organization and a couple other from Oregon, and we just tried to do what we could. We didn't really know what to do. Were we going to go out and occupy the refuge? No, we all still agreed that probably isn't the smartest thing, just to live, to not get murked in the middle of the night. The TV every day, militia, militia's occupying, militia's doing this, the militia. And so one morning we got sick of it enough, and we said, you know what? We were sitting at the breakfast table there in Burns, and we decided, you know what, let's go show them cameras what a militia looks like.
Back up. You guys won't be allowed to come anywhere closer.
Contrary to media reports that the Malheur occupiers were militia members, actual militia leaders staged in Burns, Oregon, organize a convoy to the Malheur Refuge with their long guns in hand. Intending to de-escalate the situation, LaVoy holds a press conference and asks the militia to leave their long guns in their vehicles.
That we would like to also see a greater de-escalation of tensions in town. The long guns put away. We want those put up, okay? We don't want things to look threatening.
Instead, the militia decides to leave.
The FBI had most likely watched the live stream of us pulling up, or at least the news of us pulling up to the refuge in the manner we did. And as we're leaving, we're saying, well, we're going to go talk to the FBI now. And we go drive out there and told everybody to put the long guns away on the radio as we were driving out there.
Contrary to media reports that the militia was seeking armed conflict, the convoy approaches the fortified FBI compound unarmed. Seemingly caught off guard, heavily armed FBI agents rushed from their headquarters to meet the unarmed militia.
They came piling out of that airport with their guns up, shoes untied, running out I was waiting for one of them to slip on the ice and have an accidental discharge. But every one of them's got their guns on us. And we're like, hey man, we're just here to talk.
As both sides meet at the barricade, a tense exchange ensues.
I'm Joseph.
Solid copy.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Howdy.
What do you need? We'd like to speak to the special agent in charge. We'd like to you're not going to stop. Good enough. No, we're not going to stop. No, that's not going to work. Serious, that's not going to work. We're not leaving. We're not leaving. We don't have to. There's a special agent in charge. We just need to talk.
We're trying to offer peace.
Who's there? Right. So you understand who we are. We're the founding members of the civic league. We organize all this stuff. Yeah. We're the ones that organize the panels. What we got, and what I want to throw out, and that's what we're talking about, is we have articles of resolution to present here, to represent the county. It's on the table, and everybody can start talking about it, get a dialogue, get something where they can start, negotiating a narrative, whatever they got to do to move this thing to a resolution. Because right now, as we stand right here, it's a stalemate. No one's talking.
Do you have a copy of, in essence, what you're saying?
This is what we presented. Yeah, we presented it. Come on up. We don't know you. Don't introduce yourself.
Well, that's fine. Let's go back to what we're saying. Do you have
I'd like to meet who you are.
Could we at least find out where we're at right now? What do you have?
Why is that so difficult?
Guys, we're trying to meet you halfway.
No, you're not.
What do you have available right now?
I'm Joseph Rice.
Fine. Thanks, Doug. Doug? Yeah, good to meet you. So what do you have in your hand right now?
We have the articles of resolution that we presented at the county. We'd like to present to you folks, and then we're going to present it to the county.
Okay.
So everyone knows what's being discussed.
Fair enough. We can go ahead and take that.
We need to talk to Sam. We also have to have another discussion of what our position is.
Okay.
I need someone to identify who they are in charge of.
Well, what I can do is this. I can at least do this. We can take that document from contact our chain of command. He's not here right now.
Yeah, we're here to try to.
Why don't we take?
Hold on, let me finish. Let me finish this. Listen, let me finish, please. I'll let you speak. Let me finish.
Have at it.
Thank you. We're trying to be transparent and help you guys go home. Come up with a resolution. I don't want to freaking hear
We're going to live stream this right now.
This bullshit, drop it.
Because if we leave,
I guarantee this. Wait, let me finish. If we leave, there's an element coming to this town you don't want, and you have no freaking idea. We're trying to stop that right now. There's an element coming here, which you guys know is a fringe element, extreme. They're on their way, and we want to shut it down. This is why we're trying to have this discussion. So it's hard for us to be open and transparent. Okay, I was a cop for 11 years. I get it. Let your guard down. Don't be an ass. Let's have a cut discussion.
Nobody's being judgmental about anything. We all understand. It's all based on our positions and beliefs and standards and what's right. So can we take that first step? I can promise you that, but I will get in touch with my chain of command. I know that sounds like a generic response, but
makes it very clear that nobody comes and does harm to them. Okay. I mean,
we're not staging offensive.
Yeah, that's as long as, and I appreciate hurt people because that's the element that we're unaware of.
Here's the thing, so you know them, we don't.
Are we all good with this?
I was like, are we okay, shake hands? Yeah.
yeah, you do. That's I can promise you right now that we'll get it to. That's all I ask. That's all.
I know that. That's all I ask.
That's good. Thank you. I appreciate it. Hey, sorry for the alert, but we've had strikes and stuff. Okay, so
that's right. You're my neighbor. Everybody here knows that.
So I just heard with the radio, the SEC that we were all basically it's the same, everything we've been saying. Sure. We're going to get this.
Okay. Just send it up. That's all we ask.
We gave them the articles of resolution and tried to talk to them about who was in charge. We wanted them to talk to whoever was the head agent. And they wouldn't do that. The HRT teams wouldn't do that. They said, we'll pass it up the chain of command.
In stark contrast to media narratives, the situation de-escalates. Both sides exchange contact information, tell jokes, and shake hands. No one dies today.
And you're hoping not to fire your gun?
Oh, we're not. No fire guns. Nobody's going to fire guns. No, I want to keep everybody safe. Law enforcement's lives are precious. They have family members. They have loved ones, just as we do. And so there's never any need of that.
Okay.
So.
It turned into a place of learning. We started to teach the principles of the Constitution. We started to teach the principles of claiming, using, and defending your rights. Sometimes they would come in small groups, and so we'd just sit down and teach 3 or 4. Sometimes it was a bigger group, 10, 20. Sometimes several classes a day. A few people said, why aren't you in our county? We need you over here.
LaVoy came home. He and Ryan drove all night and came home and surprised us. They had set up a meeting with the Cowboys in Cedar City, Utah to talk to them. They left Malheur feeling comfortable enough to do so, and they didn't feel any threat towards them in any way. After LaVoy was home for a few hours, we drove into Cedar City where he visited Brian Hyde at the radio station and had his last interview there. And then they left for Malheur.
they got great pressure put upon them to not come here, that you would just be assisting terrorists if you came here.
After their meeting with Judge Grasty, the FBI, and local law enforcement, the state representatives traveled to the refuge to meet with Ammon, LaVoy, and the others to hear their side of the story.
So after we left the courthouse, we went to one of the motels, and there was a back room there that several of the people who had been coming and going to the refuge and had been down at Bundy Ranch and knew the Bundys well, they had reserved that for us. So we went in there and they explained to us why people were at the refuge, who was there, that they really did want to talk to us, and that we were at no risk whatsoever to go down there.
And we decided to go actually out to the refuge and talk to the folks that were on the ground out there, including Ammon Bundy and LaVoy Finicum.
Another one of the representatives had a call from that county commissioner, and the county commissioner told that representative that the courthouse had been surrounded by militia and numerous vehicles, and they all got out of their vehicles with guns pointed at the courthouse.
The courthouse is being surrounded by 3%ers and oath keepers, and we're in fear. And we sent some folks out there that weren't legislators to go assess it and take pictures of what was going on.
They called us back and they said, there is no tracks whatsoever in the snow over here. And it was inches deep at that point. So it was a lie.
There was nobody there. It was completely fabricated. And we thought, why is he doing this? He was almost setting up this narrative. These were dangerous people that have come to my community and are trying to destroy it.
And that kind of cinched the deal. We all decided we're going down there.
12 o'clock, 11:30, we loaded up vehicles and headed out to the refuge.
And they did have a guard out there, and they waved us on through. And they took us into one of the rooms, one of the buildings, and this had a long conference table.
Most of the conversation was Ammon Bundy, and he basically poured his heart out to what he was doing and why he was doing it.
Well, LaVoy was talking as well as Ammon, and so he was interjecting different things of what had happened and what ranchers had told them when they came to the refuge. And so both of them saw this was a pattern to run people out of business. And the Hammonds, when they went to jail, part of their sentence was that they had to pay the BLM $400,000 in a very short time frame. And they also had to sign an agreement saying if they ever sold their ranch, their private land, that the BLM had the first right of refusal. So they'd been intent for decades to steal their land. And LaVoy was quite upset over that.
And so I can tell you this from their own mouth, they said that they got great pressure put on by the local county officials here and the FBI and stuff not to come out here and have dialogue with us. Now that's not okay.
The meeting was important and interesting because we were raising real issues that needed real attention. And these are the men and women who we the people have placed in authority to handle these things.
Was there elected officials from Oregon here?
I no comment.
Well, we had one Oregon state representative that was willing to go to the courthouse with us that day. And he had called the representative for that area and said, I'm going to come over here with some state legislators. And the local representative chewed him out and told him not to go. It wasn't any of his business. He needed to stay away from there. So here was the local representative, not willing to be there himself, chewing out somebody else who wanted to go and find out what was happening. And it scared the young representative. He was brand new.
If he was in fear before he came, it shows his courage that he came anyway, speaking to the Oregon State Rep. And I know that his fears were alleviated when he got there, because we sat down, we met together, we shook hands and spoke as any two men ought to.
I went there hoping to talk these guys out of what they were doing and ask them, hey, let's just make this all go away and leave. And I left there thanking him for what he was doing. When I left, I said, thank you for what you're doing.
As I was leaving, the last thing that LaVoy Finicum said to me, actually gave me a gigantic hug, and he said to me that yes, it might be a long road, but we're doing this so our kids and our grandkids can live free.
How many were there?
The room was full, about 25 people, but of the elected officials, only a handful of them were elected officials.
And what did they say at the end? What course of action are they going to take?
Well, right at the end, after handshaking and going through the major portion of the meeting, I was tired and I went to bed. So I don't know what the very end was.
It was amazing, the coordination between media and how they were attacking legislators that were involved in it, that even started to sniff around or try to find out what was going on about it. We were demonized and completely tried to put us in boxes, and the language was the same. They were picking up the same hot button words, and Oregon Public Radio, and they would put out the same lies all across the media.
Are the Bundys here right now?
No, I think they went to church.
Do you know which church?
No, I don't.
We went to town, a couple times, but we went to church, just went, and I didn't go to town very much, but some others were going to town quite often, get to do groceries and so forth. And my brother went in, got a haircut, ate at the restaurant.
And you'd watch the TV and they were lying. Arms stand off my butt. People came and went from the refuge.
The refuge was the safest place in Harney County, and I've said it more than once.
Ringleader Ammon Bundy has given us exclusive access to the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge. Bundy himself gives us the tour.
Right over here is there's a conference room, and that's where we've been meeting with most of the community members and the Committee of Safety and so forth.
Inside the conference room are federal files Bundy admits to sifting through.
We always put everything back in where they're supposed to go, but we're definitely looking through and seeking for different things like, how did they take so-and-so's water rights away, and kind of what their perception of those things are. So.
We had a core group that we would meet and talk about the things that we're going to work on, right? So I was to go through all the files. I'm going through the files and find all the stuff about the Hammonds.
We're looking at the records and trying to find out what all was going on with the land, and who owned the land, and who owned the rights there, and where had the government taken it from. That was the buildings that administrated stuff that had gone on in that area of the land for years. That's where they were oppressing the people from.
And we have another file that talks about how they changed the river and flooded them out as they flooded these ranchers until they couldn't ranch any longer. They totally destroyed the ranch with the floods as they changed the course of the river. Today we had some of the local ranchers here that came in and helped me identify some of the ranches that were in this location. And then we went and found files that went to these particular people. Don Miller. This was at Rock Creek Ranch. The homestead was burned and all the cattle were burned by the BLM fires. This morning, Randy Belisby, or whatever his name, our employee at P Ranch, was contacted by Dwight Hammond about his intent to move cattle out into the Bailey field as part of your permit. I have told you, Randy and Dwight, that his grazing on the refuge would not be allowed. The Hammond special use permit for grazing and haying on Malheur Refuge was not renewed in 1994 for 3 causes, including violations of refuge regulations. He will not be allowed any economic use on the refuge. Please try to find some other person to use the excess graze in lieu of your herd.
After 12 days, Ammon reaches out to Harney County Fire Chief Chris Briles to schedule a public meeting at the Harney County Fairgrounds where he plans to give his official exit strategy. Ammon sets up a press conference at the refuge to announce his intentions.
He wanted to let the people here know why he came and what his objective was and why he wanted to go home, so that the people here could pick up the ball and go with it.
He did want to have a meeting, and yes, it would have been an exit strategy, because he would have went in and said, okay, this is what needs to take place, and we'll leave.
The nation are surprised. Chris Briles makes an appearance with a shocking announcement of his own.
Thank you, Ammon. My name is Chris Briles. I've lived here in Harney County since 1978. I joined the Burns Volunteer Fire Department in 1979. I took over as the fire chief and was over the ambulance for 24 years, well, until the ambulance moved to the hospital. I have been a servant of this community since the day I stepped on its soil. The other day, a friend of mine poked me in the chest and said, you need to find out what your cohorts are doing at the armory. Because there's people that had been at the armory twice. They'd been turned into the police. And I thought, my gosh. So I followed the people. I followed them until they stopped, and I got out and I asked them who they were. They were dishonest with me. They would not tell me what they were doing. I asked them what they were doing in our armory, what they were doing. Well, we're just two guys going through town looking for a place to have a business. And I said, sir, typically you don't have a business in an armory. Then they said, well, we weren't even at the armory. And I said, I followed you from the armory. Then they said, well, yeah, we were at the armory, but really we were looking at the deer. There's a big shooter 4-point in it. I'm not sure how often you shoot deer in an armory, but I asked them to please be truthful with me, because I was trying to be truthful with them, and that there's too much fear in our community. I pursued information. I took a picture of their vehicle. They ran the license plate. It came back to undercover FBI agents. The day that I exposed the FBI here, I came up and I was going to go talk to the sheriff, which the sheriff's office is right there. And I got out and I started to walk over that way, and I was met with an armed weapon and say, you stay right where you're at, and it's like, what? I'm the county chief, I need to talk to the sheriff. No. I was not allowed to see our county sheriff. I went up to ask to speak to him, and I was told no, I couldn't. Mr. Grasty told me today that I'm the one that's causing the fear, that I have no right to question anybody about what anybody's doing at our armory, and that I have no right to follow anybody and question anybody, that I'm the one that's causing fear. I was just informed just a few minutes ago by Steve Grasty that I'm an old man and I have nothing left and I'm not dangerous, and that my perception is all wrong. So I said, well, Steve, I'll tell you what. You're right. You're 100% correct. My perception was wrong. My perception was all screwed up. But now you've clarified a lot of things. I said, can I have a piece of paper? And he says, for what? I said, I just want a piece of paper. So he had a legal tablet, and he tore me off about that much of a piece. And I took a pen and I looked at the calendar and I wrote it. I, Chris Allen Briles, do hereby resign my position as the Harney County Fire Chief. Effective immediately. And I signed it and I said, my perspective is clear now, Steve, and you have shown your true colors. And I stood up and I handed him the piece of paper. I said, have a good day. And I turned around and I walked out. That might say that I just quit this county. I did not just quit this county, but I will not work for a government or a person that I do not believe in and have faith in. Or,
yes, sir.
I will not,
yes, sir.
I will not work that I don't trust. Hell no. I will stand before you and tell you the truth. Do not ever ask me a question if you don't want the answer.
I called Ammon and I said, Ammon, I hate to tell you this, but Grassy just canceled the fairgrounds. And he said, you're kidding me. And I said, no, I'm not. We're going to have to find another place. He says, I've got a press conference here. I was going to tell them that I'm going to do my exit speech this weekend. They're all assembled here at the refuge. He says, what am I going to do? And I said, you're going to have to tell them we're going to have to find another meeting. He says, would you come out and tell them? He says, I think it'd be better coming from you.
And anytime anybody has any questions of me, here I am. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
I had people contacting me on Facebook, calling me, telling me, you are such a hero. You are such a hero. The American people need more heroes like you. And it's like, what? And it broke my heart. Absolutely broke my heart to think that our country is in such a situation that if some old fart stands up and says what he feels and speaks the truth, he's looked at as a hero? Every person that lives in this country should be able to stand up and speak the truth. They shouldn't be afraid to speak the truth.
Why the sudden change in not encouraging LaVoy and the others to leave the refuge? When this began, the Harney County Sheriff had offered them a chance to back out. Internal communications, however, indicate the governing's growing concern that sentiment was shifting in favor of LaVoy and the others. It became imperative to the governing that in order to maintain the extremist narrative, LaVoy and the others would have to be taken out of Malheur as criminals, whether in handcuffs or body bags.
What do you expect to do when the authorities do arrive, if they arrive?
Well, if I've always said, I will never point a gun at somebody, not pointing a gun at me. So if they just go home and don't point a gun at me, this is all good, all good. I'll go home and try to look for my cows that are missing and get on with my life.
And if they point a gun at you?
You don't point guns unless you're serious.
Do you think they're serious?
Well, we shall see.
You're ready. You said your kids are grown.
Yeah, my kids are grown. They're good kids. And honestly, there are things more important than your life, and freedom is one of them.
Next time on LaVoy Dead Man Talking.
U.S. government and BLM has taken their artifacts and they're wasting away down here.
We want to make sure that these things are returned to the rightful owners.
I went up towards the end.
I just feel there's something else underlying. Something's wrong. Why do they want all this land?
We could see what was going on in town, the buildup.
They brought in an MRAP. I drove around in one of those in Iraq.
Okay.
Back up to the car. Sir, back up. Put the camera away right now.
Why the rattling of the saber?
A couple of the cops were saying, I just can't wait to shoot one of them guys, and all that. They were all ready for the big battle.
And so a lot of people did flee at that point.
Media's been ordered to leave. That means they're coming to kill us, and they don't want them to see that. Americans are calling out for our death. They want to see blood.
You gotta get out of here. Somebody's gonna get killed.
I'm gonna go meet the sheriff. You back down or you kill me now. You can go ahead and shoot me. Put the laser right there. Put the bullet through the head.
Am I under arrest? They said, no, you're just being detained. For what? We don't know. We weren't supposed to live.
Please! Stop!
I've counted the cost, and I'm willing to pay it.
Turn his cheek, but also take a stand. When his conviction called, he followed what he felt was right. Well, there's no telling just what time will bring. You can live for nothing or for everything. But when the pushes come to shove and tell me, will you fight? Talking about a cowboy stand for freedom. I'm just talking about a name carved in the stone. A friend and brother to anyone. He's riding off to the setting sun. Drive on, cowboy, he's heading. Right, then there's nearly wrong. As you live your life from sunrise to dawn, then it's over and the moment's gone. You can testify to the things unseen, but the world is blind, can't see a thing. All you can do is try to be stand for freedom. I'm just talking about a name carved in the stone. Whoa. A friend and brother to anyone. Well, he's riding off to the setting sun. Drive on, cowboy, heading home. I know not what course of the man may take. Can't see that far down the road. But as for me and mine, make no mistake. The weight of justice is a heavy load, and I'm living by a code. He left his home to go and take a stand. Well, his voice rang out across the deafened land.